Welcome to the Solid Signal Podcast for the week of February 2nd, 2015. I'd like to start by congratulating the New England Patriots for a clean win in Super Bowl, whatever the heck it was, 49, 50, 57, who knows anymore, and also to the Seattle Seahawks for playing an extremely clean game. And let's move on because I've already talked too much about football in the Solid Signal Podcast this year. I'm talking this time about 4K television, or UHD if you follow the marketing lingo, because that's what the UHD Association would love you to call it. Nobody is going to call it that. They're all going to call it 4K. In case you've been on a year-long cruise or otherwise engaged, 4K television is television with 4 times the resolution of regular high-definition television, and although it is considered to be the next wave of television, it's a little bit different. Because you see, high-definition television came in at a time that the FCC was mandating, requiring, that all televisions now accept a digital signal. Now this time around, there's no mandate from the FCC. There's nothing saying that broadcasters will ever put out a 4K signal over the air. And as a matter of fact, the rules for 4K broadcasting haven't even been adopted by the government. This hasn't stopped manufacturers from building 4K televisions in the hope that one day there will be a chance that you'll get it. Also remember that televisions that are capable of displaying 4K content don't necessarily need to get it over the air. They can get it from a streaming source like Netflix or from DirecTV or Dish. The trick is to make sure that your 4K television is ready for all of these possibilities. Let me back up a little bit here and take you on a field trip back to the years 2007, 2008-ish, when high-definition televisions were really starting to hit the market. Some of them were widescreen, some of them were not. Some of them were capable of doing 720p only. Some of them were capable of doing 1080i. Almost none were capable of doing the full 1080p 24 Hz signal that we associate with today's high-definition televisions. As a result, a lot of us kind of got rid of our first high-definition televisions that we paid thousands and thousands of dollars for because in just a couple of years they were obsolete. Folks, don't let this happen to you again. There's a new 4K standard out there, and if your TV doesn't adhere to it, you're probably going to be tossing it in just a few years. Let me explain. Any new 4K television that you buy should adhere to the HDMI 2.0 standard. Now, televisions that don't adhere to this standard can show some 4K content, and they'll be able to do just fine with Netflix, for example. But I guarantee you, when 4K becomes a lot more commonplace, then you're going to need that HDMI 2.0 compatible plug in order to use HDMI 4K content at 48 frames a second, which is the way that all the really top quality stuff is going to go through. If you're stuck back at HDMI 1.4, then you're not going to get the true 4K experience. You are going to be left behind with a very expensive boat anchor. This also unfortunately means you're going to be replacing the HDMI cable that connects from that source device, like a media streamer or satellite TV box, to a target device like a television. We've all finally gotten used to the fact that HDMI cables can be had for a relatively low price, especially at solidsignal.com, paid advertisement there. But unfortunately, when you're talking about 4K, you're going to need an HDMI 2.0 cable, indistinguishable visually from an HDMI 1.4 cable, but at the moment, about 5 times the price. Still, a lot less expensive than HDMI cables used to be, and you're not going to likely have those compatibility issues that we had back in the mid-2000s. When I first saw 4K television back in 2012, I wasn't that excited. The truth is the quality isn't a whole lot better until you get up to sizes above 70 inches, and even today in 2015, there still isn't a lot of 4K content, and the content there isn't that high quality. It's usually kind of Netflixy stuff that doesn't look a whole lot better. But that is changing, and it's changing fast. Finally. It's possible to get a 70-inch TV for a ridiculously low price now, $800 or some such, although You should be careful of those low-priced TVs if they don't come with that HDMI 2.0 spec connector. I'm going to say that again. Don't buy a 4K TV unless it supports HDMI 2.0. At any rate, I do believe we'll see a lot more 4K content in 2015, finally. No broadcasting, maybe a live channel from DirecTV, maybe a live channel from Dish. Not a whole lot more than that. But in the meantime, it's time to start thinking about 4K, and when you think about 4K, think about HDMI 2.0. That's it for the Solid Signal Podcast, just here to help.